people, it is Storm Cecile, your full-time spoken word poet and creative. Welcome to the Creative Hub. Today we are going to be talking about failure, and we're going to do a bit of a flashback into when I first started poetry and how failure was my middle name and how we came out of that, because there was a lot going on there. So let's get started. So when I first started doing poetry, interestingly enough, I joined a collective. It was with some brilliant poets. To be honest, being very honest, I was like the worst, if not like quite low on the totem pole. Yes, I think I was one of the youngest in the group, but I think being in that space made me realize that I have so much work to do, especially as a creative and especially as a poet. It helped me to develop some really thick skin, because through joining that creative collective, or that poets collective, I started entering slams and competitions. And when I tell you a competition can really slap you around the face, it really can. I entered so many competitions, I literally cannot even give you a number. I failed most of them. Most of them I failed. And what I began to realize is that thankfully that failure didn't completely throw me off the rails and make me think, wow, I'm so bad that I actually can't fulfill this as a career. But I think what it made me realize is that there is a reason for failure and there is a function for failure. And one of the people that I like to follow on social media is Usain Bolt, because, support Jamaica. Obviously one of the top athletes in the world, and he recently put up a post with his mentor. His mentor's Glenn Mills, and his mentor actually said, in order to learn how to win, you must first learn how to lose. And when I saw this the other day, I was thinking, rah, man, I really know how to lose, because I've lost so much. And last year I entered the competition. I think there were quite a few people that entered. I was shortlisted. I didn't win. And that feeling, or that reminder of, wow, failure can really cut deep, really set home for me. I was like, wow, like I haven't felt this feeling in a long time. And it kind of made me think deeper into this topic. So I want to cover a couple of things. Failure is an isolated incident. Sometimes it might represent, some other areas that you need working on, but especially in the creative field, failure is not your identity. So just because I failed at a competition doesn't mean I'm necessarily awful at it overall. You have to also remember, in a competition where you are competing against other people, there may be bias with the judges. There's so many elements to a competition. But my point is, whether the win or the lose was justified or not, failure is not definitive. Failure is not an identity. All of a sudden I didn't win a competition, that doesn't mean that I'm a bad poet, or the hours that I spent in my room at university for 3 years, waking up 5 a.m. in the morning until 7 a.m., oh, they're wasted, you're awful. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Once I changed my mindset on failure not being defining and rather it being refining, that is when my mindset started to change. It's also when I feel like, and this was in 2018 when I started to win a few competitions at this point, praise the Lord, because I'm not sure how much more beating I could have taken. But I think at this point, it made me realize that if I had accepted the failure as it is and had placed it as my whole identity, then I wouldn't have entered any more competitions. I wouldn't be a full-time poet at this point, because I would have said, wow, I'm really that bad. I failed all the competitions I've entered, so this is not even worth me pursuing because I'm awful. But actually, because I took it in a different way and accepted that, yes, I have failed at this competition, I will take on the notes of the judges and what they've said to me and their feedback, and I will try again, or I will learn a new way of communicating this, or I will refine my skill. It actually meant that I became a lot better at my craft, and probably made me a little bit more determined. It's kind of like when you think about competitions, right? For example, Britain's Got Talent or The Voice. Sometimes the person that wins isn't always the person that necessarily wins. Let me explain what I mean by that. You may have somebody in a competition that wins, but actually in the long term, is it necessarily beneficial for their career? Did they get the most out of it? Sometimes the person that actually loses to the person that wins actually goes a lot further than the person that won the competition. Failure can make you uncomfortable, and I've learned to turn that uncomfortableness into some sort of weird drive. Maybe that's wrong with me, but that's just how I've turned it and transformed it. But I've turned it into some sort of drive where, okay, if I fail, what can I make out of this? So for example, the competition that I lost last year, to be fair, I didn't really take it that bad, because I realized at this point, because I've lost so much, I actually don't have anything else to lose. But I think in the process, when I was walking around the Royal Albert Hall and talking to different people, and they really loved the poem. I mean, some people, they had different perspectives on who should have won. That doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But what I did realize when I was walking around the Royal Albert Hall and people were talking about the piece is that they really loved it. So what can I make out of this event? I can celebrate the winner, and I can release the poem, and it will still impact loads of people. And I think that for me, in some senses, is a win. It's taking those difficult moments that may be hard to swallow, or the feedback that may be difficult to hear, and turning it into something that's a lot more positive. I also think when it comes to failure, it's really important to remember the highlights. I think I mentioned before that failure can feel really defining, but if we center ourselves around that moment, we can forget the other things that have gone really well. Okay, I didn't win that competition, or I was shortlisted for the MOBA Unsung finalist and didn't get through to the final people that they picked. But I've had some really good moments. I've had some really good moments last year. And so I suppose it's thinking about, what are you going to focus on? We can focus on the failures and they can define us, or we can actually redefine our lens and refine how we are thinking, and actually remember that, yes, this is one moment that happened over the course of my life, and I can use that and pick up some strength and some speed from that, but I can also remember these really good moments. I think this is the same when it comes to mistakes as well. Sometimes a mistake can feel so defining. You know, I think about some of the mistakes I made, and boy, I do not want a university tape to come out about my life, because boy, there was a lot of things that happened there. I make it sound like I was like a drug dealer or something, but I wasn't. But what I'm saying is that the things that are embarrassing to me are embarrassing to me, and they can feel all encapsulating, and they can feel like massive failures, and to some degree they are, but I don't want them to define the entirety of who I am. Sometimes as humans, we make mistakes, we fall short, but how can we use those moments and do better? Like Glenn Mills said, in order to know how to win, you must learn how to lose. And sometimes we need a couple of those battle scars on us so that we can actually say, do you know what? If I go in and do this, I already know how it feels to lose. So I have nothing else to lose. If I lose again, I lose again. But if I win, this is going to be pretty massive. And it makes the celebration all the more special. When you've taken that time to really intentionally work at something and you end up winning at it, that is just the best feeling. I think it's also interesting how, as creatives, I mean, even humans just generally, we have a predisposition to be negative. We tend to err on the side of negativity. So if we fail at something, it's like, well, I'm going to fail again. But what if you don't fail again? What if you win? What if, like, this is the next best thing? What if you actually succeed? I'm sure the person that started Gymshark, when he initially started the business, there were lots of challenges and lots of difficulties, but he ended up making it through. That's, you know, if he didn't do that, then we wouldn't have Gymshark today. We wouldn't have this awesome company that is raking in, you know, millions every year and hiring a ton of people. You have to believe in yourself, even when it feels like you are failing constantly, because there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe that is me erring on the side of optimism. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I keep saying this in every video. Please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Please share it with your friend and your auntie and your dog and your cat. Share it with everybody you know. And if you know somebody that has experienced failure recently, share this with them. Let them know that it does not define them, and that regardless of what challenges they may be going through, that there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.